Hey everyone, welcome back to the Family's Flyfree podcast. This week we are going to be talking about Europe because Europe is a hot spot right now. I think we have a lot of people post-pandemic. I know some people started going last year, but a lot of people are going this year. I definitely know people there right now. I know people who are headed there. We even have one member who's going twice this summer. Lucky her. And as I've shared on the podcast previously, we had a trip scheduled to Italy and Switzerland in May that we had to cancel. And so we're now have rebooked, and fingers crossed we're going to do Paris later this summer. So all that to say, this week I have brought on a guest, Sean Finelli, who is the co-founder of the Tour Guide. And I'll let him explain to you in depth what they are, but they are, from my view, a tour company that offers all kinds of amazing tours in cities around the world, not just in Europe, but I think in large part Europe. So welcome to the podcast, Sean.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here. I think your description is super accurate. You know,
Okay.
I mean, we are a tour company. We've always been, I used to be a tour guide. My business partner, Brandon, is actually in Rome right now, leading some tours because of some guide crises that are going on in Rome. Yeah, if the questions you have on crowds are a very hot topic right now, especially in the main cities. But yeah, I mean, we are a tour company. We leverage technology to kind of make the user experience better for travelers and people going to different destinations. But every company does that now. I mean, it's like my dentist will text me with updates and things like that. So it's not like it's nothing new or groundbreaking. We're just kind of at the status quo on technology. But yeah, tour company overall.
So I think it's been many years now since I came across Sean. I think back in the days when I was doing a lot of travel writing for different sites like US News and World Report and some others. And so I wrote about some of their tours, and I actually have personally been on multiple of their tours, which I absolutely loved. And so I always keep them in mind when I'm writing about Europe. But so I did just want to share, if everyone will indulge me for a second, some of my experiences on their tour. So we did multiple when we were in Rome and the Rome Amalfi area, which has been now, I don't know, 4 years ago, something like that. But I'm a tour person because I love to learn. I'm a history geek. And so I'm like, load me up, like tell me everything I can learn about wherever I am. And I think when you don't take a tour, you just miss out on a lot. So we did the catacombs tour. I think there's multiple catacombs in Rome, but and San Clemente, those two go together, right? That old San church. And what I loved about that one, it was an actual professor from a university in the area who led that. And I just thought he was fantastic. I even took my picture with him. I thought he was so great. And then we did the Colosseum underground tour. So I'll let you explain this a little bit, but some of these places you may not realize you need to book ahead of time in order to get access to these things, like way ahead of time, people.
Way ahead of time.
Right. And through some of these tours, like they have, you can see things that you might not see otherwise. So like this took us not just in the main Colosseum, which I was surprised to learn is a church. That's amazing. And then we went into the underground where you could see where they like loaded the animals to pop them up on the floor and all
backstage.
Yeah.
Backstage was understage.
Yeah, that was really cool. But yeah, like when it comes to the Colosseum, like tell us about the difficulties of getting in there.
Yeah, I mean, so Rome is just like the tourist destination for tours and activities. The idea of a tour is really changed a lot through the last like 50 or 60 years. Like a tour is also like a 7-day trip where you have hotels and buses and all the things included, and there's one tour leader with you. What we run are like 3-hour tour.
A 3-hour tour.
Yeah, it's just like there's a different, like, depending on your where you are in life and what you're used to in marketing. Tours was a multi-day experience where you went to China and the Great Wall, and now it is it is both actually, but we run the 3-hour portion. So individual, it's like you want to plan your trip on your own and not be with a tour group. you could hop on a 3-hour tour of the Coliseum and then go do your own thing for a day. And the next day you want to have some other structured activity like the catacombs tour you're talking about with San Clemente. You can do that too. Booking in advance 2023 is a very busy season. This is the revenge travel season. There are multiple challenges for tour companies right now in terms of, guides, tickets, everything. We've been very much ahead of that curve. So we're doing quite well and our customers are quite happy. But I mean, there's a big issue with, the pandemic didn't allow, like there were a lot of things that happened, like licensing in Rome is a very big, important thing. And during the pandemic, the guide license association didn't release any more licenses. So no one could study and take the test and become a tour guide. So now we haven't had licenses released since 2019 or 2018.
It's kind of like the pilot shortage.
Exactly what it's like. So the amount of people that didn't travel during the pandemic are now all in Europe and Rome specifically. And it's like 4 years with the tourism in one summer, and there's just not enough people. So, in the summertime, people should expect, not be able to find the tickets they want to find unless they book in advance. There still are, we have a lot of last minute tours, like a few different products, normally on the least expensive side, honestly, or the last minute products. They normally have lower value props. Like instead of a Coliseum Underground tour, which is like the most premier experience you can get, which normally comes with a higher price tag, like closer to $150 a pop. You can get a tour for like $65, small group, and it's just a regular Coliseum tour, but still very cool because you're inside the Coliseum with a tour guide. But so getting tickets is quite challenging right now too. It's one of those things where you're going to end up booking a tour one way or the other. So you might as well book it in advance.
And I just remember them talking about, like, when we were at the Coliseum. I mean, this was pre-pandemic, and the crowds were crazy. Like, I can't imagine trying to navigate that. I mean, I guess you can't just show up these days, right, and be like,
no,
I'd like to buy a ticket to go in the Coliseum.
No, I don't think you can show up and wait in line and get into the Coliseum at all. I think tickets are completely sold out. I know that because we buy a lot of the tickets. So we're part of the, reason why they're sold out, but there aren't many tickets left over. So booking in advance is definitely something you want to do. Booking a tour is a better experience overall anyway. Back in the day, tours used to be sold in the street to avoid the line, and they were normally like big, huge groups of 50. And you were literally just buying that to skip the line. And then maybe you got some cool information. Now the groups are nicer. They're smaller. They're closer to like 20, 25 people. You go inside, you have a very good guide, archaeologist. They're focused on the tour and not just skipping the line, although you do get the advantage of skipping the line. And you go to see some cool stuff. It's quite nice, but I would not expect to show up to any monument. The underground tour you mentioned is also quite complex now. You have to book that at least 30 days in advance. So you cannot even expect, it's not even possible to get an underground tour less than 30 days in advance, because this particular tour, you need to have your name on the ticket as written on your passport. You need to bring your passport to the Coliseum as well. So they changed the rules on this. Yes. So if you try to book it on our website, the next 30 days is completely sold out. You can't buy a ticket. We can't change tickets from one person to the other. We can't write your name on a ticket later. At the time of reservation, we need to have the full name of the traveler as written on their passport. So
this is all good reasons to plan ahead. I'm notoriously not a great planner. But there's some things that you have to plan. Disney would be another one. But yes. And isn't it difficult to become a tour guide in Italy? Or isn't it pretty stringent?
Yeah, there's a whole licensing. So you study for years to become a tour guide. It's not just like, I think I want to become a tour guide. So you stay for a couple months. It's years of studying. I mean, to take the test, I mean, for example, one of the questions in the test was, tell me the type of marble for the column number 4 in room A1 in the Capitoline Museum. Just that's it.
Oh my
What's
gosh.
a marble? And the idea is that maybe you can
marble.
exactly. You know what I mean? It's like no one on a tour is ever going to ask that. If someone did ask that, I would probably be like, listen, I'm not even going to try to answer that because it's crazy. Well, not even that. It would just be like, let's focus on this, Renaissance painting over here or something like that. But that is the type of stuff you have to know to get a license. It's not easy. You must have a background in history. It's not just like I'm very exciting, I can make stuff up. It's very controlled.
I guess that's why we have professors doing it, because they would have that knowledge,
Professors, archaeologists, I know archaeologists that were, tour guides without licenses, which isn't very legal to do. And these guys were super knowledgeable, super great, but never got the license. It was it's very difficult to get, and these people would be the definite person you want to hire for a tour, but according to Rome, they're not good enough.
Yeah, that's insane. Okay, so, and with that one, we also did the Palatine Hill, which is like the ancient part of Rome, pre-Roman glory, I guess, as we think of it. But then one of my favorite things we've ever done was the Vatican museums with this day trip out to Castel Gandolfo, which I happen to be Catholic, so I exceptionally found this interesting, but was the summer residence of the popes for hundreds of years. Pope Francis
until like 5 years ago.
Right. So he's chosen not to use it. And so now it's open to the public, which is pretty cool. But it's just this beautiful town. Like you like hop on this train in Vatican City and then in an hour?
Okay. So this is the deal of the century, by the way. This is like one of the least expensive Vatican tours we have, just because of a caveat. So we sell this for less than it costs us to run it. And all tour companies do this. And the conversation is even too complex to even explain. The Vatican really likes tour operators to sell this tour. Okay. So you can do a Vatican tour that's like a premium Vatican tour. It's full day though, for less than other premium Vatican tours, and includes lunch, and you go to Castel Gandolfo and you get to go to the Vatican Gardens, and it is rarely purchased. It's rarely purchased. Nobody buys this tour. It runs like with like a few people every week, where we have like, just because people normally don't want to spend the whole day there at the Vatican. So it's great for any religious traveler or any traveler that just has additional time in Rome, wants to do something different and cool. I mean, you have one of your questions you sent me was, how do you avoid the crowds in Rome? This tour is how you avoid the crowds in Rome. The Vatican museums are going to be miserable this summer. There is almost no way to avoid it. We have one tour called the Vatican Aperitivo Tour, which enters at night. It's a premium tour, so I think it costs like around $150. You know, that could obviously fluctuate over time. But at the time of recording, 2023, that's where it was. And it goes inside at night. So there's about 100 people in the Sistine Chapel. And that's really, really good. During the day, there's probably 1,000 people at the Sistine Chapel at a time.
Yes, that's a great tip, because you definitely want to see the Sistine Chapel. And fewer people would be better.
Yes. So doing like the Castel Gandolfo tour is what you're referring to, where you take the Vatican train, by the way. It's actually a train station in the Vatican.
So cool.
To Castel Gandolfo. Yes, it is cool. Is a great way to avoid the crowds. Otherwise, in the summer months, it's going to be busy at the Vatican. It's something that you're there. You definitely should do it. A tour is the best way to do it. Expect to be crowded though. It's going to depreciate the experience, but you know, you got to travel when your kids are out of school for most people.
Right. Yes. And I would say, even if you're not a religious traveler, like this town that this is in is just beautiful. It's just like it's very cool. Of Rome. It's a volcanic lake that you're looking over. It's just a stunner, and you could just go there and have lunch and ride this train. It's just a neat experience. So, and I think
we used to go there all the time just to lay at the lake and hang out. And
oh, really?
You know, it's very nice. Yeah, it's just a cool town outside of Rome. It's actually a very
the popes picked it for their vacation residence.
You're actually right. We should market it that way. It's a very inexpensive way to visit a town outside of Rome, and also do a Vatican tour with tons of free time.
And what I found most amazing, and this I think would relate whether religious or not, is you tour the gardens there, and it's like unexcavated ancient Roman ruins are just laying around.
Of course.
They're just laying around. You can go
dime a dozen.
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, what? They're just like, we haven't gotten around to excavating this area yet. And there's a little ancient theater back there that you can see. You can still, the mosaic still on the floor. And I mean, it's because
these were all like palaces for emperors.
It was is it Domitian or Diocletian? It was one of their villas is where this is.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but
one of the two
the emperors sound nice, you know?
Yeah. It's like this Pope's summer home is built on this ancient Roman.
They always did. It was cheaper to build on that foundation, and they used a better concrete than we use today. So the foundations normally last longer.
Yeah. So if you're interested in archaeology, it's very cool. Okay. So
it's also nice to hang out, you know?
Yeah, it is. Right. I mean, just go up there, have lunch, stroll around. I mean, it's just great. And then the last one that I wanted to mention was the drive down the Amalfi Coast, which I think is kind of a different thing. Like you could you could hire a driver to drive you from Rome down to, I think that's where we drove from. Yeah, we didn't do Pompeii. We skipped Pompeii, which we got to go back and do that. But we went
yeah, I remember
down through the coast, because driving that road, like my husband is a great driver, but my goodness, you really would have to know what you're doing, because it's this teeny tiny curvy mountainous road with trucks and tour buses coming by,
yeah.
And they know how to stop and navigate and everything. So I then you can focus on the beauty around you. And then we got to like stop at the different towns, and we had lunch at Il Praiano. Highly recommend that. That was a stunner. And then ended up at Sorrento. And then we spent a couple nights there. But so just all kinds of different things that you offer, I think.
Yeah, we actually have a small group version of that, which is really good, which hits Pompeii and then does the Amalfi Coast drive down to Sorrento. It doesn't go that far into Amalfi Coast because it's just like in the summertime, it's very busy. There's a lot of traffic. I mean, I get motion sickness, so I don't want to sit in the backseat down the Amalfi Coast Road personally. And Sorrento is very nice. It's not technically part of the Amalfi Coast, but you'd fool a lot of people because it looks exactly the same. So that one goes to Sorrento, which is quite nice. Lots of time to walk around, eat lunch and everything. Or you could hire a private driver and do the Amalfi Coast drive. It's actually, if you're going to stay on the Amalfi Coast, it's perfect. Like you said, you got dropped off and spent a couple nights in Sorrento, and going down to Positano and getting a driver is quite nice. And we normally include Pompeii in that as well, which is a nice stop along the way.
Right. Yeah. And I think we ended up just taking trains to get back to Rome. But
yeah, from Sorrento, it's hooked up to Naples by train. You can take a train from Naples to Rome, a fast one.
That's exactly what we did. So, okay, so let's get to, if you have any. So we've definitely said there's huge crowds in 2023, right?
Yes.
So any other tips to mitigate the crowds?
Yeah, I mean, totally. So I guess the real tip is just don't go to Rome in June and July. And if you do,
you shouldn't go in August either, should you? Just because there's nothing open.
August is, well, it's more open now than it used to be. I mean, I don't know how this summer is going to be, but the last like 4 years, August has been much more reasonable. It's normally just like the 15th of August, and the few days around that is quite like closed up. But all the monuments are open, all the attractions are open, and while there's still many tourists because everyone's traveling, there are less Italians there, which makes the city feel less crowded. There's less cars driving around. It's actually quite nice. I'm not gonna be in Rome this August, but it is a nice feeling there in Rome in August. Just more holidays, more closures, but you can kind of work around it. All the museums are open, all the tourist attractions are open. But like June, July, September are gonna be quite busy this year. When I travel to Italy, normally I would probably want to go, if I was planning a trip, I would like to go in March or April or October or even November. The first week of December is also quite a nice time to go to Italy. It's not, you get really lucky. The last like 3 or 4 times I've been there during that period, that's when we have our company Christmas party. It's been very nice, light jacket weather, some light rain, which is fine. You walk around dressed up because it's Italy, so you have like your nice clothes on, and you're wearing your half suit or whatever it is. And it's also lit up for Christmas.
Oh yeah.
So the pro tip is if you go around like December 8th, you can do like the flights are normally relatively inexpensive. Like I normally pay on the summer, I pay $1,500 to $2,000 for a flight to Italy. And then in December, it's like $600. So you can go for a long weekend if you have the means, and it's less expensive than the summertime. And Rome is quite nice, lit up for Christmas. Restaurants are empty. Everything's empty. It's cheap. Hotels are like 1/3 the price than they are in the summertime. It's phenomenal.
So try to go, if you can, not in the summer, to Europe in general, would you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't go in like January, February personally. It's just a little bit too cold, but like December can be quite nice because the Christmas lights. So even if the weather is a little glum, the Christmas lights like really make some good energy there. Okay. Otherwise, in the summertime, if you're going to go, like, just pop into the main cities, do the things. Like if you haven't been to Rome, and you're going to go to Italy, you should see Rome. Like it's the most incredible city in Europe, 100%. My personal opinion. Like Agreed. That and Paris are just incredible.
Yep.
But I mean, I probably stay outside the city more often. Like there's lots of great places in Umbria, and Umbria is going to be very dead this summer. It's not going to be a lot of people. You can go to Gubbio, which is really cool, or to Orvieto. Then like Tuscany is great. Tuscany is just very expensive. Like where you can rent in Umbria an Airbnb for like $300 a night, get a couple bedrooms and a beautiful view. In Tuscany, that same Airbnb will be like $1,000 a night.
And Umbria looks similar to Tuscany, right?
It's you couldn't even tell the difference if you're driving through. Yeah, it's normally not like Tuscany because the label on the wine goes for a higher price, which is still reasonable compared to like California or something crazy, or France. But Tuscany just goes for a higher price. So Umbria is not as cultivated with vineyards. You don't get that like curated vineyard view literally everywhere. Like Tuscany is all grapevines and olive trees, but you get it enough where it's like, this is really beautiful. And you get very cool towns. Like Gubbio is a diamond in the rough. No one knows about it. It's an amazing town. So cool. Huge piazza, castle view. It could be something out of Game of Thrones.
Well, and I have an Italian tutor. I'm learning Italian anyway, and she's in Milan, but she every week on Skype, she has a picture of some Italian area behind her, and it's always someplace I've never heard of. And she's like, oh yeah, this is a wonderful little gem of a town that only Italians know about. It's like there's just a million places like that in Italy that Americans don't have a clue about. We just hit all the
Yeah, and it's
the
like I
biggies.
don't really want to tell anyone, to be honest, because I want them to stay how they are. There's like a lot of great gems. Like we're gonna go to Ponza this summer, which is an island off the coast of Rome that looks just like Capri, except the prices are 1/3 the price or 1/4 the price, and it's just as beautiful. No one speaks English, so everyone's intimidated to go there, but we can go there because we speak Italian, and it works really well. We're at the cliffside Airbnb with multiple terraces, and I showed you the pictures, you think I was
Please
some
send me pictures.
juggernaut stockbroker, but really it was just reasonably priced because no one goes there.
So I think that's a big tip to remember, everyone. Like you can still see Italy or these other countries too, but in some of these off the radar areas. So let's talk about just some of the benefits of taking a tour besides learning. Like I think a big one is that we broached on is skipping the line. So like when we go to Paris this summer, we will, hopefully I'm not too late, we'll book your catacombs tour in Paris, because when we first went to Paris, we did not know this, and we showed up with our kids to the catacombs.
It is the most infamous line in Europe is the catacombs.
And it was like a 3-hour line.
You can't go inside without it. It's crazy.
Yeah, nope, we're not going to be waiting in that line. So, so our plan, we know this time we need to book this ahead of time. But like some things like that, that.
Well, let's backtrack even beyond the benefits, because like obviously skipping the line is a benefit. Like I literally sold tours in front of the Coliseum for like 4 years. Skip the line, skip the line, skip the line. That's good. But otherwise, what else are you gonna do if you don't do a tour? Like I went to the Sistine Chapel when I was like 18 years old or 19 years old, and me and my brother, we were probably drunk in Europe the whole time, and like we ran through the Vatican museums. I don't remember anything. I just remember looking through the Raphael rooms and be like, where the F is a Sistine Chapel? You know what I mean? I'm just like, sorry, this is family friendly, but cruising around, finally got it, looked up, got out of there. And it was just like, we were done in like 30 minutes. And it was just like, what was the point of that? And it's like, and then we're like, what do we do now? I guess we go drinking and get lunch. You know what I mean? That was the vibe. So it's like, what else are you going to do? Like structured activities breaks up your day and gives your day purpose and makes it more memorable. Otherwise you won't remember. Like, I don't remember being in the Raphael rooms really well. I don't remember anything about the Gallery of the Maps. I just cruise through. Like at the end of the day, when you're on your deathbed, you're going to think about all the Thanksgivings you had. You're not going to be able to tell one from the other, but you will remember experiences you had and moments where you visited a new city or saw something iconic or something cool. And a guide only builds up the anticipation towards that moment and makes it more memorable. So when that moment does come, you'd be like, I remember this in Chapel. I remember being in Saint-Chapelle, hearing about the windows getting broken and this and that and whatever not in Paris. I remember this. I remember hearing about the flood here. I remember seeing this aqueduct in Segovia. You know what I mean? It's like these memories are what you're taking with you. So the number one reason to take a tour is because if you don't take a tour, you might forget what you saw. And if you take a tour, your chances of remembering it are that much greater. That is like the number one thing for me.
Love that so much. That's so good.
The other ideas is like, okay, what are the components of the tour? So obviously skipping a line is a great deal. 2 is like we secure tickets in advance. So like you're saying you don't plan ahead. I do. That's what we do for a living.
To plan.
If you didn't plan ahead, how would I have a job? You know what I mean? I don't know. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't plan ahead. I mean, people book far in advance. Like the average booking window is like 6 to 12 weeks out. And then you get some people that book 6 months to 12 months out, and that's great. We buy the tickets far in advance. We buy these tickets for many monuments 9-10 months in advance. I'm talking shoveling hundreds of thousands, if not millions of euros out to acquire tickets so that when you go there, you have that ability to enter. So like in the past, it's skipping the line, but now it's like just getting inside too is a big part of doing a tour. And then so you can't get inside if you don't do the tour, but then you do the tour and the guide's great and they're passionate and they're really into it. Like people don't choose this job because it's monetary benefits. It's not like there's no tour guides flying private jets around the world. It doesn't exist. People do it because they really like what they're doing. We have a catacombs tour in Paris who's a cataphile. She professionally sneaks into the catacombs at night and she's all awesome and weird and that's her vibe, and she just loves it. And you get a tour from her and you're like, perfect person to get a catacombs tour. You know what I mean? Maybe I don't want to chat her up in a bar, but
an article about how we didn't realize that the catacombs in Paris go on for just ridiculous miles more than what's open
six
to
or
the
7
public.
million people.
And there's all
bodies.
these, yeah, people like you just said that sneak in there. They know the secret entrances and how to navigate down there and the parts that aren't open. Crazy.
It's just one section that you go into. Also with the tour, like to say the Paris catacombs, the tours get into different areas you can't go into on your own because you need to have a guide to show you through them. So you get a very abbreviated passage by yourself. And then with the tour guide, you get to see all kinds of cool stuff like the barrel of skulls and all kinds of crazy cool things. But it's very cool. And then just like, you're going to want to know what you're looking at. And people don't get it because, a lot of the people are going to Europe, especially our customers are American. And you go to an American museum and it's like interactive and it's got like this like video presentation and like you could like touch something. Yeah, there's explanation. Ben Franklin pops up as a visual animation. He's like, oh, explain electricity. In Europe, you get there and you get a little card the size of like your iPhone. And it's like, this was painted in 1778. By Raphael, not Raphael, it was around that point, but by whoever, Delacroix, and this is this, and that's that. It's an impressionist style. Boom, that's it. By the way, all the things I just said were all different time periods, not the correct painting style. But I'm just saying, you get this little tiny card, and with the tour guide, they explain everything. It's just like, this is why this happened, and then they give opinions, which is not just like on a card you get facts, and facts are boring. Okay, no one cares when something's painted. They care that it was painted the same time period that Napoleon was ransacking Europe, or that Winston Churchill was defending, the known world from tyranny. Like that's what people want. They don't want to know it was painted in 1943. Who cares about 1943? Right. You want to know the analogy of how that affects your life. And that's like, you can't get that on a card. And the Vatican museums are not interactive. They expect you to buy a tour. They want you to buy a tour. We have a direct relationship and partnership with the Vatican museums. And the idea behind that is like, you guys should do this better than us. Go ahead.
Yeah, and they're very picky about their tour guides too. I mean, I'm sure it's Italy on top.
It's a license, man. You can't do it without a license.
Yeah, right. So, I think that's all super important because if you don't take a tour, like you just miss, I don't know, 90% of the information about wherever you are because you have no idea. You don't know.
Yes. And a lot of these attractions like lean on us as a tour company to kind of be inventive and do things that aren't happening currently, or to just like manage new types of experiences. Like the Tower of London, they are really happy with our partnership with them. We're one of their biggest sellers of tours, and we just know what people are going to want better than they do, and they are very happy with that. They sell us tickets at a slight premium to do cooler things than you can do a general admission, and they let us manage it, and it works really well that way. So attractions partner with tour companies like us because we can just manage a better product and experience better than most of the attractions can. And then like, why do the attractions want to do that? Like their job, the Coliseum's job is not to manage attractions. The Coliseum's job is to keep it standing.
Right.
You know what I mean? The idea is, well, yeah, they're not. They want to make sure that you can see more of it and that it's standing and it's safe and it's going to be around for forever.
Yeah. And I just wanted to mention too, because when we were looking for our trip in Italy that we ended up having to cancel, we were going to go to Milan. And then one of the big attractions there is Da Vinci's The Last Supper painting, which you cannot even get. It has to be at least 6 months ahead of time is when they start selling the tickets. And so because like your company, buys some of those, I think you can have a shot at it later on if you still have a tour open because you already bought the tickets, right?
It's a challenge. Yeah. So we're partners with the Last Supper and with the church, you know what I mean? So Last Supper's in a church, by the way. It's not just like a museum or anything. You literally go inside a church and they have a chapel, and that chapel was where the Last Supper is. And yeah, we have a partnership. So we have allotments of tickets. Again, a lot of these places, they don't want to deal with all of the logistics of it. They love to partner with tour companies who can deal with it for them. They can do online sales. There's a lot of things we solve for them, and they're happy with the deal. But yeah, you want to buy the Last Supper in advance. You can buy, we still have some inventory last minute with the Last Supper. So if you go on our website, you can, or you just search Last Supper tours, you'll find us, don't worry. Google is the best place to find us, but you can find inventory on our site and you'll be able to get a tour likely like 2 weeks in advance, most likely, but you most likely won't be able to get a ticket just to go on by your own. The Last Supper prefers you go in a group and that you're guided through the museum, because otherwise people they know that the tour guide and the tour company has more at stake. So if people on our tour are taking, flash photos, they can just find us And they know that our tour guide will keep everyone from doing that, and that kind of helps the monument stay around for a longer period of time. So it's kind of like outsourcing.
Because that one is in particular like disintegrating or something, right? It has to be in very specific.
Everything is. I mean, the stuff's
Controlled.
400 years old, 500 years old. You know what I mean? So it's like these museums, they want to keep them around forever, you know, and that's a big part of this. And, you know, you go in by yourself and, you know, people, you know, I don't expect a doctor who knows everything about my body and I don't know half the stuff to know everything about art. That's they do this, they make it so I stay healthy. We make sure they understand art. They may not know the effects of a flash on a painting from the, you know, 15th century or 16th century that has been used as a barn and was bombed and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, we do know that. And that's what the museum leans on us to take care of that for them, because they're literally a church. So it's run by clergy.
Right. That, yes. So they are happy to have someone take care of that. Right.
Vatican is the same way. You know what I mean? The contact that we have is actually a nun this year. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's hit, if you can recommend any kind of off the radar spots that you think people should see in some of these big sites, London, Paris, Rome.
Yeah, so like London is really cool. There's an area called the Seven Dials, I think it's called, in London, which is a really cool little area. It's just where 7 corners come and intersect in the middle of London. Soho and stuff is very popular, but I don't really love Soho. It's a little bit like, I guess it's fun if you're young and stuff. It's a little bit dirty. I kind of prefer to be somewhere a little cooler and nicer and cleaned up. Seven Dials is that for me. I also went up on the Shard a couple years ago, which is like the skyscraper in London, which if you live in like New York or something like that, it's kind of just like, yeah, we got lots of skyscrapers, but London, they really only have one. You know what I mean? It's this is the big one, and there's some other smaller ones, but it's not like, you know, New York where you have like 50 or 100 or 200 skyscrapers. So the Shard is pretty cool for a viewpoint, and you can get a cocktail up there. It's just kind of fun and cool and fancy. I would also recommend in Paris, there's a lot of great things to do in Paris. Saint-Chapelle is one of them. You want to book that in advance. That's the church with all the beautiful stained glass windows that are very
That's
thin.
one we didn't do before either. So that's on my for sure
list. It
is
a very impactful place to visit. And it's a timed entry. Again, it's very hard to get tickets. You got to book in advance. We went in 2021 when tourism wasn't even a thing and it was difficult to get tickets. You know, so I couldn't imagine even you have to book months in advance right now. What tour companies do is, I mean, we don't actually have a Saint-Chapelle tour right now, but I assume we will by the time anyone listens to this. You know, we're always putting on new stuff on our website, but tour companies just kind of make all that stuff easy. Like, how do you get tickets? How do you plan? How do you organize? We just be like, yeah, don't worry, but you just buy our ticket or buy our tour and we'll take care of all these things. And that's a really big benefit. But in Rome, there isn't a lot of off the beaten path in Rome anymore. Rome is very saturated. But one thing I would recommend is if you're going to stay in Rome, don't stay by the train station. A lot of people make the mistake of staying by Termini. You really want to stay in the Spanish Steps, which is like, I guess like 40 and up. Like that's where I'm at now, and that's probably where I want to stay when I go with my wife. And then Piazza Navona for like anyone like, you know, there's some overlap there, but like 45 to 30 near Piazza Navona. It's kind of like a midway in through life place to like kind of party, hang out, and eat good restaurants, and like Trastevere for the young kids.
I love Trastevere. It's my favorite spot in Rome.
Yeah, when you go back though, you kind of like it a little bit less every time as you get a little bit older. You know what I mean? It's like every time I go back, I still like it. I still go there, and I still hang out there. Yeah, it's just like cleaner by the Spanish Steps and by Trevi Fountain, and you know, not Trevi Fountain as much, but like Piazza Navona like is my spot. You know, that's where I really like to hang out, or like by the Pantheon. Now it's just like a little bit cleaner. Trastevere is a little bit, you know, shabby in some places. I still go there. I still hang out, but less and less every year. But I would, off the beaten path is really just outside these cities. These cities are going to be packed. If you're going to go there and you want off the beaten path, go in March, go in April, go in November, December. You know, or August. August, just expect some closures.
Yeah, and even like Paris, we were looking at, you know, just quick train trips to Paris. I mean, there's like a gazillion places you can go on the train from Paris. So I suppose you could stay at any one of those places too and go into Paris.
There's a fast train. There's a fast train to Bordeaux now, which is quite nice.
It's a fast train to all kind of places.
Yeah, Bordeaux is quite good. I mean, you could in Rome, you could really create a hub in like Tuscany, honestly, and then shoot to Florence or shoot to Rome for the day too. I mean, I in the summertime it makes a lot of sense, but in the summertime you want to be by the sea as well, and not in like the countryside. The sea is quite nice in Italy in the summer.
Okay,
Puglia,
so I know
Puglia is a great area in Italy to go to for the summer.
That's the bottom.
The stiletto heel, the boot.
Yeah,
is Puglia. It's just like no man's land. Like you will not find any. There's set up for tourism, but it's not really the same. Like you have to rent a car and you have to do things like that. Like you don't want to go to Bali and stay in Bali. You stay in a villa outside. It's way cheaper than Tuscany. Instead of $1,000 a night, you pay $300 a night. You can split it with other family, which is quite cool. But you have to rent a car. But driving's just like here. It's okay.
So I know we need to wrap up here. So let me ask if you have a favorite tour or two. I'm sure it's very hard for you to do that, but
I'm a boat person. So if I'm going to do something, it's going to be on a sailboat or a boat of sorts. There's a boat tour from Sorrento to Capri, which is great. You're on the Amalfi Coast. Amazing. It's going to be so busy in the Amalfi Coast this summer, like crazy. Like there's no way I'm going to the Amalfi Coast. My wife tried to get us to go to the Amalfi Coast. I'm like, zero chance. We're going to Ponza because Amalfi Coast is going to be crazy this summer. You couldn't pay me to do it, literally. But I would consider the idea of taking a boat on the Amalfi Coast because the water is not crowded and there's no people. So from Sorrento, there's a boat tour you can take. We have it on our website. It's through a company called Boat, and you can just go from Sorrento to Capri for the day. And it's like you're on a boat. It's like a private yacht basically with like 10 or 12 people on it, and it's amazing. You jump in the water. There's you get to see the Fragolini rocks and all kinds of cool stuff. This is the big rocks by Capri that stick up out of the water like in the Philippines.
Yeah, we still, of the places we've been, ranked the Amalfi Coast as the most beautiful place above Cinque Terre. And we did spend a day on Capri. Oh my gosh.
If you can save on flights, rent a boat and stay on the Amalfi Coast.
We teach you how to fly for free. So
that's what I'm saying. Use that money to rent a boat and stay. Because the Amalfi Coast is just busy. It's just really busy. But by boat, you can go to all the restaurants, the good ones at least by boat, and you can just dock. You know what I mean? It's really, next level.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Okay. All right. Well, tell us where we can find the tour guy online. And I will say they have great content on YouTube and Instagram, tons of great informative videos and tips and things like that. So where can we find you?
Yeah, obviously our website is tourguy.com. You can Google the tour guy and you can find us, or you can Google anything you want about Europe and you can find us as well. You can Google what to see at the Louvre or top things to do in Segovia or how to visit the Vatican. You can Google basically any question you have about Europe, or at least like France, Italy, Spain, and the United Kingdom. And then you can find our website on the first page for most of those queries. You can also, you can search Rome tours, Colosseum tours, Vatican tours, Paris tours, whatever you want. You'll find us right there. Or we have a little red favicon or logo that has a porcupine on it. Don't ask me why, it's a whole long story. But you'll see our little red logo with the porcupine outline. And we have tons of tours and options. We run like 80% of our tours ourselves, and then 20% of our tours are run by what we call inventory partners. And there's other companies that we think are really, really good that know more about a specific subset of a city or something that we know. Like maybe I'm not going to run a food tour in Lisbon because I'm not an expert on Lisbon. So we're going to use a food tour company in Lisbon to run that tour. There's also, I'm a big expert on food in Rome. But at this point, I've been living in the States for about 7 years. So we are shopping out one of our food tours to another local company that we feel is more competent than us to run food tours in Rome. So there's always, our goal with this, with the partners, is just to always have the best possible experiences curated. So you don't have to second guess your choices, compare on our website. Every tour is going to be great. And it's from a great supplier. So, or ourselves. I think
that's a good, but like curation is key here. I think for everything these days, this is a way to curate your travels. They're going to have an amazing tour and they're going to get you to the things that you want to see and do. And it saves you the overwhelm of trying to plan it all.
Yes, we definitely have a lot of options and different things for people to choose from. But again, we're not looking to have every option. We're looking to have just the best quality options. So it's really easy to be like, okay, I'll commit to this tour.
And I assume we can find you on social media at the tour guide is what it is.
Yeah. So YouTube is our big thing. We have a really immense travel guide or blog. We get over 1 million visitors per month to our blog, which is just like unlimited free information. And we just plug our tours along the way. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, do this tour. You can do a tour there as well. And then on YouTube, we have this, we have a partner named Angel who runs our YouTube channel. And he is like super colorful, super animated, great. And he is like a history nut. He's so passionate about, churches and food and culture, and he loves it. And he's like Spanish and Italian backgrounds. And he does amazing content. He's actually traveling to Europe right now. And we're like, have a slight gap in production where we haven't produce a video in like a month, but normally produce a video every other week. And we're gonna see a run of really good videos coming out now. So like 75,000 subscribers, and which is a lot for a company. Normally individuals, companies normally don't, accrue a mass following. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, you guys do a great job with content for sure. Very, very
Yeah,
helpful.
and it's pretty like motivated on free information. Obviously, we plug our products and things like that, but normally it's like we plug products that fit into the content that we're producing. It's not like a commercial.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that was fantastic. I would love to have a part 2 of that. I could have talked about that all day. But we will let you go for now. And everyone, tune in next week. We'll see you on next week's episode.